We were talking about how, really riches are in niches and how niched you can be. And like, that's why there are a lot of grant writers who write all kinds of grants and they're going to say, I'm not as successful as you. The reason mine is so successful is because we are so niched and we know our content area so well. And I think in going along with that, we were talking about there really can be a business for everything. And I was like, yeah, my family just spent thousands of dollars on a sheep treadmill. Who would think you would waste so much money on that? But again, it does prove the point that everyone can have an idea. And I think the more niche down you are, the better off you're going to be in the end. So even sheep treadmills is an amazing business opportunity.
Welcome to Reward, the podcast of The Trust. We are the show specifically for women entrepreneurs who want to build businesses into the multi-million-dollar revenues and beyond, but especially because we know the reward is much greater than that. I'm Allie Brown, and I'm excited to introduce you to these diverse female leaders from a variety of industries, women making huge impact and who are unwilling to settle for the status quo. On the web, visit jointhetrust.org to learn more about our modern community for forward-thinking 7- and 8-figure women entrepreneurs. That's jointhetrust.org. See you there. Now, get ready to enjoy this episode's powerful conversation. Good morning, Elizabeth. Or good afternoon.
Good morning, Allie. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm so glad we could finally do this. And as well as many others in the trust, find your business fascinating and also your journey, to the top of your category and everything you've done. And so, why don't you first just give a snapshot kind of your current state of affairs, with what you do with your grant business and anything else you want us to know.
Yeah. So I run Burrows Consulting. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, so we're very excited about that. And since then, we've brought over $400 million in grants to health centers across our country. We work with community mental health centers, federally qualified health centers, hospitals, rural health clinics, and other healthcare providers. We work in an extremely small niche, but we mainly write grants for them, and we also help them get accreditation and certain status with the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare to enhance their Medicaid and Medicare reimbursement. So it's more sustainable than just grant writing.
Yeah. Can you explain to everyone, and also some of us who get confused sometimes, what is an actual grant?
So most of our grants we write are to the federal government, but we also write state, local, and foundation grants. Local grants being like your local county or your local United Way community funders. And then also foundations we write to local community foundations as well as large worldwide foundations for people. Grants are typically money that is paying you, but it is, as with anything, there's always strings attached. It's for a specific purpose to carry out a need or help serve a community. Most of our grants are to hire staff members or to expand clinics or hospitals or access to some sort of care, primary, behavioral, dental health care, and other needs in underserved areas throughout our country. We do work, people say a lot of times, oh, you work mostly with rural, even though the clinics that I personally ran have all been rural. We do work about half of our clinics and half of our hospitals are also urban. So it's just with underserved communities.
Okay. And is it literally like free money? If you're using it for the right thing, do you have to pay it back? How is this different?
It is literally free money, but you do have to provide reports. You have to provide data. You're uploading information to the government. Again, you have to think, a lot of the information that we provide actually goes to Congress. So Congress gets the reports, the abstracts, we call them grant abstracts in our world that they get that say, because you've served this many clinics, this is the impact that you've had. So in some ways, most of what we work with are our government's response to, say, sort of a healthcare system for the poorer population. So, and they know if you get care at a federally qualified health center, you're actually going to have better health outcomes than if you don't have access to primary health care, or even if you just go to a traditional doctor's.
Okay. And there's grants available. There's grants available for all kinds of businesses, right?
All kinds of businesses.
I mean, can you give us kind of an awareness of that for anyone listening going like, wow, I'm not in healthcare, but this sounds interesting. Where could I learn more?
So, I even just in the grants that we write, we really only write to three federal agencies, and there are hundreds of federal agencies. So, just to give you an idea, there are tons of grants to write at all time. Um, it is, people joke like with scholarships, it's like, well, there's a scholarship for everything for left-handed people with red hair or whatever. It's the same with
Yeah.
grants. It's just finding the right connection. So there are grants. I will say the majority of grants do go to nonprofits or 501c3 or public entities, meaning cities, counties, towns, a designated hospital district or health department. Over half do go to that, but there are grants that you can get as a for-profit.
Okay.
So yeah,
And this is a
and they
whole business, not only of you, I mean, there's all kinds of people doing grant writing. I know one of our members
right,
used to do this. Sarah Beth Aubrey did that as
yeah,
well. Is
yeah,
that because it's a complicated space to navigate that you usually do
correct.
hire someone to help?
Oh yeah, most people do contract out. It's something that there's very limited grant writers actually in the country, and they're in high demand. So a lot of people can contract that out. It's also something that sometimes people don't always have a need, so they may not want to bring someone in all the time and have to pay that salary and benefit. And that's one big thing that's helped my business kind of boom is where we offer a service that I don't think there's any other. I know there's no other grant company offering it for healthcare. I don't think anyone else is really offering it in the country. It sets us apart. And we have a subscription service where we become your in-house grant writer. So we meet with your
Ooh.
team weekly. We really get to know you. We are an extension of your team. We try to even get to your clinics or your facilities or your hospital at least once a year. And we write all state, local foundation grants and a certain number of federal grants. And sometimes we
I
write
love
more at
that.
an additional.
That business model, did you is that common or did you come up with that idea, that ongoing retainer?
Yeah, I came up with it because we had people who were asking us, they would keep hiring us for, will you write this one grant? Will you write this one grant? And my team was saying, we really like it when we get to work for the same client over and over. And so I was actually on a free business class or something. I was listening to someone talk and they said, you want to have a subscription model. And I just thought, how could this work for me? So I know I have
Yeah.
that recurring revenue at all times. And our clients love it, honestly. We've had
Yeah.
over a 90% retention rate on it for the past 2 years. They love that service. It's something that sets them apart. And
Yeah.
then we also do grant research. So we go find funding opportunities for them. And that's something typically they can't do on their own.
Wow. That makes so much sense. And also you said even after you get the grant, then there's reporting
There's reporting.
regulations.
We
There's
help on all that. We even
okay.
provide policies for them, procedures for how to manage that. We help do all their federal, state, local reporting. And again, people really like that. As a lawyer, my background is, of course, in compliance and making sure everything's on the up and up. So that I just love that. I love making sure people are spending their money appropriately. They still have to go through their financial audits and things like that, but we help
Yeah.
them do all the reporting to take the headache off. Because actually, this came to me because I happened to have a client. We had gotten them $100,000 grant. We were excited from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and they actually gave the money back because they were like, the reporting requirements are just too onerous. It's not even worth the 100,000 for us.
Oh,
So
wow.
that added to, I was like, oh man, we got a grant. We're awarded a really highly competitive grant and they're going to get the money back. I hated to hear that. So that was why we started doing some of the reporting for them.
I love that. Let's go back to early Elizabeth Burrows.
Oh no.
Tell we don't have to go too far back. But tell me a little about your upbringing, where you grew up, and then why you chose to go into law. Let's kind of go through the twists and turns.
Yeah. So I grew up on a farm, first generation college student. I'm an only child. But my whole family farm, my dad farmed with his brother, so I had cousins and grandparents, and everyone lives on land all by each other. Got to do all the 4-H and show animals and livestock and all that. Had a great upbringing. All my family lived super close, all my parents and grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. So had great support system. And honestly, that's kind of what triggered how I really like writing grants. It was my parents. I was a senior in high school and they knew they wanted me to go to college. But of course, finances were going to be an issue because my dad has invested all the money back into his farm. And so I wrote a lot of scholarship applications, and scholarship applications are very similar to grant applications. And
Hmm.
so again, my dad will tell you the best day of his life is the day I got a full ride scholarship to college. leaving a message on an answering machine because he was out on the farm before cell phones came in, listened to the message, cried for 15 minutes before he could even call me. He was so happy to go. So I had the opportunity to go to a private school in Indiana, DePaul. That was great. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I thought I wanted to be a child advocate lawyer. I took a different path, but I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. So that was a great opportunity. And then,
why'd you want to be a lawyer? Is it because of the child advocacy or just fighting for others?
I thought I wanted to run for political office. That was like my goal my entire life. I was going to be governor of Indiana. That was the life plan. Um, until now, I'm completely disillusioned with politics and everything. But I do remember someone that I had looked up to in politics saying that they also wanted to start and run a nonprofit. So those were my two big things. I wanted to be governor of Indiana and start and run a nonprofit. And so then I went to law school at Indiana University, had a great experience there, but realized while I was doing my legal clinic there that I couldn't sleep at night when I was representing kids and trying to take them out of bad homes. That's what I thought I wanted to do. But again,
it's too heartbreaking.
It was too heartbreaking and I was too involved and I couldn't separate myself from that. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do something different. I had worked at a law firm, didn't love it. And so I had the opportunity to work in state government and work again with grants. I'd written a grant at 19 when I worked for USDA to the Gates Foundation, won it. Thought, oh, that's great. I mean, if I can win a grant to the Gates Foundation, surely I can just do any grant. That was my thought process at 19. And it just kind of kept building on itself. I worked in state government where I started writing federal grants. They went from getting $3 million a year, to $10 million a year under my leadership. And it just kind of went from there. And that's when I had the opportunity to move home from Indianapolis, move back home after college and law school to start a federally qualified health center that they had a grant awarded for. And I said, there's no way I'm moving back home to the farm. I don't want anything to do with that. That was my first answer. And about 8 months later, they had worn me down and I did move back home, but where I still live in rural Indiana, close to my parents and all my family, to start this health center. So
oh my gosh. So I'm gonna reflect something back that I'm hearing. Were you always good at just kind of rolling up your sleeves and figuring it out?
Yeah, that's what I'd watch my dad do, right? As a farmer that experienced he watched all of his friends bankrupt out of farming in the 80s due to droughts and horrible weather and things like that. And so, and my dad always wanted for me, he just wanted me to have a job that paid benefits. Like he didn't want me to be an entrepreneur or start my own business or anything. But again, he had always instilled that entrepreneurial spirit. Like you just figure it out. You roll up your sleeves and you learn how to do it. And you work really hard and hard work will pay off. And that was just always instilled in me from a really young age, sorry. And so that was my whole life. My parents just, you work hard, it will pay off. And I just decided I'm going to figure out how to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So you opened the health center, which really, I mean, how'd you even know how to do that? Or again, you just figured it out?
I had no idea I don't know why they hired me at 26 to start a nonprofit health center. Again, it was a small community. They were excited to have somebody come back local, that they were upset with the brain drain. Everyone gets educated and leaves. So they thought, we're going to bring this local girl back to do this.
Oh, were you like a rock star when you came back to town? Was there a parade?
Oh, well, maybe not quite that, but yes. I mean, I spoke at every event. They were so excited to have me back. This is going to be awesome. And I just started promoting it. And I didn't know what I was doing. I had a mentor at the hospital who had been one of kind of an adopted mom to me through the 4-H program as I grew up. And she was like, here, I'm just going to teach you everything. And she took me under her wing as a great mentor. And then I just asked a lot of questions. I read a lot of things. I found another mentor who was running a health center out of Chicago. And she took me under her wing too and taught me everything she knew. And I just kind of kept learning from there. I also was throughout this time, I'm battling my own personal health conditions with Crohn's disease that was almost debilitating. And so throughout college and law school, I had been in and out of hospital and hospital stays. So when the opportunity to work in healthcare arose at the state government level, and then to start a clinic that served the underserved, regardless of your ability to pay, I was drawn to that because that was my passion. Like other people need healthcare to the same quality that I need it. And, And so through this time, I'm, battling that and trying to take care of my own. So,
Wow. Okay. So then when did the idea occur to you that you could start your own business?
yeah. So, actually, one of my very first years running a health center, I went to a National Association of Community Health Center meeting where I was the youngest person by probably about 20, 25 years. And the guy stood up and spoke, and he said, there's going to be a huge loss of knowledge when all you retire in about 20 years, and we're going to have an issue. Well, that was
Mm.
about 18 years ago. Okay. And I remember thinking, ding, 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 I'm going to have something that's going to set me apart. Like, I'm going to have knowledge. I don't fit in here because I am so much younger, but I'm going to learn everything I can from all the people in this room. And I'm going to have something that set me apart. And as I continued running the health center, we went from having no money, just one grant to pay salaries, and that was it. And then when I left it with like 180 days cash on hand. And I was like, and what do I have to show for it? I've just got a salary. And that's when I said, I'm starting my own business. Like this didn't really, I mean, it's great, beneficial. Like I learned a ton. I
Yeah.
had a great experience. I got a good salary, but they literally told me at the time, you're never going to make more than the judge of our rural county. So at the time I was maxed out at $120,000 a year. And they said, we're not going to pay you more than that. So that's your
Yeah.
max and be happy. And I was like, well, then I'm going to go do my own thing and I'm going to create it and not have any boundaries or limits set upon me. Of course, my dad, who struggled in farming, is going, oh no. Well, but he thought, okay, I think you can do it. This is going to be a great thing. He was really encouraging me to my face. My parents were, but of course, I think behind his back, he's like, oh no, what are you going to do? And my husband was at the time got married right when I started my health center. He was like, let's do it. Let's go. This is a great time. And I was having little kids and I thought, okay, here we go. We're going to start this business. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to spend more time with my kids. I'm going to make more money than I ever had. And we're going to make more of an impact. We're going to make more health centers get more grant money than what I could do just by serving one health.
Oh, I love it. When I quit my last job, I was in my late 20s and I didn't even tell my parents because I mean, I really didn't know what I was doing and they knew it. So, and my mom's biggest question, even when I told them months later and I was sharing the exciting things, and I'd already made, of course, more money in like 4 months than I did the entire year at that job, right? Like, but they're not hearing that. She's like, what about your health insurance?
Yeah.
Benefits were the big dream for that generation.
Yeah,
And,
it was.
it took them years to, I think, kind of get it. I'm like, I'm going to be good. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
even if I don't have health insurance, I have the money to pay for, hello kind of thing.
Right.
God bless them.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just they want the
So
best for us. They're meaning well, but yes, it is a
totally. And what they came from. And my dad had a business as well that was very up and down. And then there were the years we went to Disney and years we did not, go to Disney. And so it was very evident. And I think, that's where they came from. So
yeah. Yeah.
are your kids more inspired entrepreneurially, you think, than you had thought? Or what do you think about them?
So they're 12 and 14. I have two daughters, definitely girl bosses, both of them. My 14-year-old claims that she's going to do one of two things, be a psychologist or be a lawyer, but not like her mom, a real lawyer. So that's typically what she's saying. She also says that she wants to potentially come back and work for the business. She does go to work meetings with me regularly, conferences and helps, and she knows the whole spiel. And she has written and received her first grant at 14.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I'm training her up. My 12-year-old, since she was a baby, has wanted to be a doctor, and that is still what she stands by. So she's like, Mom, I love your business, but I really just want to be a doctor. I want to have my own practice. She definitely has an entrepreneurial spirit, but
Yeah.
she wants to have her own practice. But she's like, I don't really want to do what you do. She's like, that just seems boring. You just talk all day and write all day, and I want to actually be helping people directly. So I'm like, hey, you go,
Yeah.
girl.
She's
Let's work that.
hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything that surprised you once you started the business and you got into it and you were trying to grow it? Did anything surprise you or throw you off that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, I would say two things. One's COVID, and I'll come back to that in a second. But the other thing that has been a challenge is I just thought honestly, it's a lot easier than I thought it was going to be because it's all word of mouth. I had a business for 7 years that didn't even have a website. So now we do have a website. We do have a social media presence, but it's just been in the last 3 years. So actually, it was easier for me to get clients that there was such a need. And even to this day, that's constantly the challenges. I've had to turn down a substantial amount of work in the last 2 months because even though I've grown my team, everyone is working at or over capacity right now. So I think it's just the demand is so huge. That's been the shocker that it's hard to come back, hard to keep up with that. And then the other surprising thing for me was with COVID. I had gotten so many clients by going to meetings, going to conferences, you know, being out there, meeting people. I mean, that was my method. They met me, then they would hire me. Of course, it'd be great. Well, COVID hit, and all of a sudden there's no conferences and there's no meetings. And I thought, what am I going to do? And that's really when I just sat down with my client list that I had been serving for the past 6 years. And I just went through and I asked everyone if they would do a 15-minute coffee break with me by Zoom. And I just
Hmm.
learned that actually creates way more work. And everyone will give you 15 minutes, but really it ends up being 30 or 45. But if you ask for a long time, then they're a little hesitant. They don't want to talk to a consultant for a
Right.
long time. Once they talk to you, then it's like, oh, could you help me on this? And also, I need this. And then could you also help us do this? And at that same time, of course, grants for healthcare were releasing like crazy because of COVID. So people who hadn't previously thought of grants all of a sudden were like, oh, well, here's all these opportunities. And they were reaching out to anybody they could find. And again, that's when we wrote a record amount of grants that year. And then we continued to grow them.
You have like the ideal sales proposition. It's like, let me help get you free money. I mean, I can't find anything wrong with
Yeah,
it, really. And if you
exactly.
can just justify the return on, are there any times you can't get the grant? Like, are there any times you go for it and you don't get the grant? And
Yeah.
like, how do you even how do you handle
Yeah.
that?
So, I try to manage expectations from the beginning, we're going to do our best and we're going to put you in the best position. But some of it is luck. It is a group of reviewers, typically people like you and me, that are volunteering or getting paid peanuts by the government to do grant reviews. And so sometimes it's the luck of the draw, who your reviewers are. And we've learned that over and over. Um, so I try to manage expectations from the beginning, but I also do tell them, like, if you're on our subscription plan, the average return on investment is 20 to 1 at a minimum.
Hmm.
So it's pretty easy to say, I'll spend $1 if you're going to bring me in 20 for all
Yeah.
of that. So,
Okay.
we try to continually like evaluate that value-based proposition. We also, as a company, are kind of evaluating certain foundations where we know we have luck with, and we know we don't. So there's a couple that we've written to, 3 or 4 times and haven't had it. We're like, okay, maybe that's not our perfect fit. And then we find others and
Hmm.
kind of learn the tricks of those, try to share that with our clients. We also do more than we don't just expect people to tell us what grant to write. We try to work with them and say, hey, provide guidance. Like, I think, this grant that in the past 2 cycles, they've funded a lot of dentists. So that may be something you want to think about is expanding your dental practice.
Mm.
Or in the past, this foundation really focuses on substance use disorder and addressing the opioid epidemic. So let's focus our grant on that. So we really try to give guidance so we're helping them.
It's true
Um,
consulting versus just work
mhm.
for hire and filling out forms.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah,
And that's what
that's
a lot of grant
awesome.
writers do. So we really try to put them in the best possible position. We also say when you start working with me, please give me time. In other words, don't hire me for 3 months and expect me to bring in a lot of money. We are getting to know you. So when you do sign up, especially for our subscription service, plan to be on at least a year because it's going to take us time to get to know you, you time to get to know us. We're going to keep improving our process as we go along.
That's
Um,
smart. Hmm.
and then, kind of setting that expectation from the beginning. Again,
Yeah.
also, in addition to the grants, we're helping them get more money from Medicare, Medicaid, the 340B drug program. So pretty much know we can guarantee that we can get that money for them. So they are getting more money in, even if they're not being as successful on grants.
Yeah.
And truthfully, they usually all end up making some money on grants and being happy, because
Yeah.
again, that's how we continue to get more clients and we keep selling to our same clients because
Now, I
of the
read you have a
success rate.
team. You have a team of 14, I think I saw
It's
around there.
Yeah, it's growing. It's growing. We're adding to it. If you are a grant writer out there that wants to has some healthcare experience, I'd love to have you. We're
Work at
constantly
home,
trying
easy.
to eat
Yeah.
work at home. That's right.
Yeah.
Everybody's remote. Yeah, so we're growing it. We're up to 16 on our team, and we're hiring somebody else, I think, this week. So
I was going to ask,
continuing to grow.
do you hire people who can hit the ground running or do you train them? Does it take a lot of training in your methods and what you do?
both ways. And there's usually a combination therein. So a lot of times people have written grants or have worked in healthcare, and then we kind of train them in our methods too. And
Okay.
a lot of people have worked with me in some form or fashion that I've been hiring recently. So they maybe come from a client, or I've known them from a contract that I've had, or something like that. And we bring them in. But yeah, definitely we've been developing our processes and procedures for making sure you understand the Burrows way of doing things and our methods of grants. And also I learn from them. Sometimes they come in with a new idea and I'm like, I didn't do that. Oh, that's great. I love that. Or, they have a new idea of this is how we can strengthen them too. So I feel like we all make each other better.
Yeah. Um, I have to bring this up, and there's no connection to this whatsoever. What I'm going to share is totally random. But at one of our meetings, we were brainstorming, I think, on business ideas, or was it the session I did in Naples on creativity and taking different
Yeah,
ideas and putting them together, which is one of my favorite things to do. It's like distancing ourselves from our business, getting creative in like how to put together different combinations of offers and products and services. And something led to you sharing that there is such a thing as a sheep treadmill. And we,
that's right.
and this has now
That's it.
become like kind of a meme in the group. Like this is a repeated idea. Like we always bring it up. It's kind of funny. Why don't you just
Well,
talk
they were
about that for
talking
a
about,
minute?
we were talking about how, really riches are in niches and how niched you can be. And like, that's why there are a lot of grant writers who write all kinds of grants and they're going to say, I'm not as successful as you. The reason mine is so successful is because we are so niched and we know our content area so well. And I think in going along with that, we were talking about there really can be a business for everything. And I was like, yeah, my family just spent thousands of dollars on a sheep treadmill. Who would think you would waste so much money on that?
You
Well, that
see the
then has
whole room
turned
go
into
like,
something. And the whole group is like, oh. So now they all want a sheep treadmill. They've all talked about it. But yes, we have a treadmill to exercise our sheep so they have more muscle content and do better at 4-H shows or FFA shows and things like that. But again, it does prove the point that everyone can have an idea. And I think the more niche down you are, the better off you're going to be in the end. So even sheep treadmills is an amazing business opportunity for people. And
yeah.
I have spent more money on sheep than I care to admit. I will tell you that for my
Because
family.
you've shown sheep, right? You have,
Yeah. Yep.
and
And
then
my one
Sarah Beth,
daughter
our
shows sheep.
other member, has show cows, and I'm like, is this an
Yes.
Indiana thing? Like showing your animals, but
It
I'm just fascinated with it.
I was just in Wyoming visiting hospitals, working with them, and they were all talking about all their show animals and everything. So I think it is across the country. It's just the farm people and the rural people, I think, are the ones that know it more. But it's a huge business. And again, if you just think about it, hey, and I pay so much for like sheep hair products, wool products to make them grow the right way. So it's like, again, there really is a clientele
Riches in
for
the niches.
everything. That's
Yep.
right.
Yep. I love that. So, what's a week like for you now? Are you mostly managing your team's activity, or are you on the phone a lot with clients? Kind of give us a snapshot, and then your life with your girls and your hubby.
Yeah. So honestly, I spend way more time on Zoom sitting in front of a computer than I care to admit, but I am on calls. I do calls 4 days a week. I'm helping my team. I'm meeting with clients. I do some writing, but very little. I'm writing my first grant in like a year and a half right now. So just because we're so over capacity. But typically, I'm doing edits and reviews to make sure things are going out to the standards that we want, and then providing technical assistance to clients working through more of the challenging, difficult things for people. Also building the team, and then going to some meetings to recruit clients. I do all the sales calls. We've tried that another way. We've passed that. Nope, it just works better when I do all sales. So I do all sales calls, all initial calls, and I'm not for sure that I will change that. At least
Mm.
not for a while because it works really well, and we've tried to change it. It did not work so well. So it's back to I do all the sales calls and all the contracts for sales. And then, yeah, my girls, they're busy. They're 12 and 14. We're going to activities. They're in band, they're in cheerleading, they're in 4-H, FFA. My parents live close, so we're always doing things with them. We're active in our church. We have Airbnb, so we're going to visit them. We've been at Lake Michigan last weekend and this weekend. So, for fun, to use our Airbnb for fun, not just for monetary rewards, but also for us to enjoy it. And, I'm really lucky. My husband was a college professor and kind of gave that up to teach at my kids' school. So he can be with them and do
Oh,
90% of the running. So that's been huge for us. So he's running
that's
them and
worth
he's,
getting married. Like that's worth.
I know, I know. He
I
does
may get
all the
remarried just
laundry,
for that.
all the laundry, all the dishes, and all the running of kids. So I'm really, really lucky. And he does most of the homework because now they don't trust me on homework. They said I've missed some, mom, and dad doesn't miss any. So there you go. But I do
I
help
love
with
it.
some with the homework, but he does a lot of the running of them. So yeah, and then we love to travel. We go to a lot of Broadway shows local here, and also I go every year to New York. So I'm trying to bring all my kids into that. We just got to see Caitlin Clark play. We're trying to see all the girl bosses. We're going to Caitlin Clark, Simone Biles, and Taylor Swift. So I've
Oh
got to get all
wow.
my girls seeing the ultimate girl bosses. So within like a 2 month period, I'm like, you're getting to experience it all.
I love
So
it.
we're always trying to do fun things like that. Yeah.
That's so cool. So now networking and connection seems to have been a big part of your whole career, your whole life, growing and then
Mhm.
growing your business.
Mhm.
Why did you decide to join the trust? Because it's also very kind of separate from the industry that you've been
Yeah.
immersed in. And what made you want to reach out and say, "Hey, I'd love to be a part of this group"?
Yeah, and unlike most people who have somebody bring them in, I think I just was on your email list for a while and I kept seeing your emails and then finally I clicked and I thought, well, maybe I ought to try this. A couple things brought me to it. One is that my daughters were at an age, they were 11 and 13. And I told my husband, I was like, the last 10 years, I really have not invested in myself. He had finished a doctoral program. We had focused on him doing that and then just focused on the kids so much. And I was like, I need to like be growing my business to take it to the next level. We really want to take it to 8 figures. I need new knowledge. And I think your email maybe hit at the right time or day. And when I got on the phone with you, I thought, oh, this is going to be perfect. And the other thing is, I had just noticed some of my friendships changing as I had continued to make more money, or we're driving a different car, we were having a new house. I had just seen some of my own friendships changing, and I thought I just need people who get it, who like get business, and who get that if I want to go buy a really expensive purse, I'm going to do that, and that doesn't take away from my family. Or if I want to talk about hiring my house to be cleaned out and come up, and somebody has a whole list job description for that, I want somebody to help me on that. And so that's when I reached out, and it's been great. Um, I would say if I mark everything, of course, by ROI as I do for my clients, but even just some of the tax tips and things I've learned have more than paid for the trust for me. So that's been exciting to go back to my husband and be like, yeah, I'm totally re-upping again because I've saved so much money that it's paid for the first 2 years or 3 years. So just things like that. And then also just having a community to say, hey, what do we want to do? People to text, people to reach out to different times. I'll be honest, my business is different. It's not really like most of the other people's, but I still learn things from what they're doing and I can take it and adapt that.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah. And we've loved having you, and we've listened to a lot of the things. I mean, you share some great stuff at the meetings. I mean, I see women writing things down that you share. And then coming up too, we're going to have you share with us more about, your rental properties and how you've added that on as another source of income, which I think we all should be thinking about right now. If you haven't already, I mean, the world's kind of
diversifying.
crazy
Yeah.
right now. You need to, yeah, make sure that you have, you're not too heavy in one area right now. I'm not articulating that well, but you all know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I didn't want to use the
Exactly.
ag eggs in one basket. I was trying to avoid
Right.
ag references, but there we have it. So yeah, so these are the things, that's what I love so much about that group is people come in kind of face value, but then you get to know all these different things about them and their hobbies and the sheep and and
Yes,
then that you
exactly.
have Airbnbs and you make money from that and it's just such a the richness is there in just so many ways in how these women live their lives. So for you, Elizabeth, what has the reward been in all of this in what you have worked so hard for and created and are still creating with your business?
Yeah. So again, going back to my battle with Crohn's disease, Mayo Clinic saved my life, literally. So, access to high quality healthcare is what keeps me going. It's why I get up every single day. So the reward is the fact that now I am completely in remission with Crohn's. I'm living my best life. I have no inflammation in my body. That's a huge reward for me personally. But on a deeper level, the reward is that I get to help other people have access to healthcare that maybe wouldn't have had that. And so I get to do what I think are the best of both worlds. My team and I really get to make a big difference in the world, a positive impact, while also making a lot of money. And that's what I want each of them to have, that same pride that I have. And then, of course, in anything we do, the reward are the relationships that we build and the positive impact we're having upon the world. And so if I think, today I learned a grant that we wrote a year ago that we got $580,000 for. They didn't even make us rewrite the grant. They said it was so great, we're going to give you another $320,000 to improve maternal and child health in Dallas, Texas.
Wow.
Now that's not normal. Normally we have to rewrite the grant again or resubmit a grant. But like knowing that maybe if I could help one mom in Dallas, Texas, in inner city Dallas, Texas, that maybe wouldn't have had access to healthcare, like that's the reward, is having that positive impact upon the world.
I love that. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us. I can't wait to see you at the next meeting. And I'm just excited to hear everything else going on with you and get these amazing women together, because it's always magical. So thank you for being a part of it. And
thank you so much.
I think Sarah Beth's coming too. So we'll have the ag connection there.
There we go. All right.
You guys start ripping on stuff. We're like, what are they talking about? It's awesome though.
I know. I love it. So thank you so much, Allie, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Subscribe now to the Reward Podcast to be sure to not miss an episode. And don't forget to visit jointhetrust.org to learn more about our modern community for forward-thinking 7- and 8-figure women entrepreneurs. You can learn more, apply to join us, or refer another woman you know who is over the $1 million mark and is ready for a different type of women's network. We have events coming up, both live and online, that are truly creating new possibilities for female leaders. That's jointhetrust.org.